Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, Kate. How's it going today?
It's going okay, Julia. It's Friday.
Yes.
Starting to lose my motivation. Getting ready for the weekend.
Yeah, same. I was saying to my fiance yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it's Thursday evening. I'm like, I feel like the week has just started and it just flew by. It's crazy.
That is crazy. I'm like losing track on what day it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some of my routines have just totally changed. Like things I wouldn't do in the evenings unless it was Thursday or Friday, I'm like doing on a Monday or a Tuesday. And so I'm just all thrown off.
It's
That's
just
okay.
all over the place. What kind of routines are those?
You know, so I've got 2 little kids and both my husband and I work full time. And so we're always short on like individual time. Luckily, we love being together, but everybody needs their own space. And so sometimes I'm just like, I just want to play piano by myself, or I just want to read one of my books by myself in the room and shut the door. So some of these like by myself times usually don't happen until Thursday or Friday. Because usually we're hustling and finishing work or doing homework or kid stuff. But like Tuesday night, I'm like, well, we don't have more schoolwork. I'm like, I'm going to shut myself away and have a little me time. But it's those little routines that change that kind of make me lose track of the days.
Yeah, but it's nice that you're actually doing them because self-care is so important at the moment where everybody is at home.
Yeah, agreed.
How old are your kids?
2 and 8.
Okay. And your husband is usually also always working from home, or is he usually out and about? No.
He's usually out. He's a high school teacher. So this is all new to him too.
Yeah. And so he is homeschooling other kids as well over the internet.
Yes.
And your kids are also homeschooling, I assume.
Yep. And I'm sure you're aware, you don't need to have kids to know that our education system is not set up for this. So it's been just an abrupt change. But I think as with all things, so there will be some positive ripple effects, I think, for the education system after this. But big adjustment for him and the 8-year-old. The 2-year-old, not going to daycare is different. But frankly, he prefers to be home. So he's loving it.
Nice. That's awesome. And one of the things that I'm always wondering about is how do like families with kids do it now? Because you literally need like 3 or 4 computers, no?
Yeah.
Or like hand your computer over for a couple of hours.
No, it's a valid, concern. And I'm like solid middle class, right? So I'm pretty lucky that, I do have a personal computer. It's 6 years old, but it works fine for like iTunes and my pictures. Yeah. So that's what my 8-year-old's using.
Okay.
Our school district did give out Chromebooks, but they didn't have enough for every student. So, we didn't get one because I wanted to make sure the kids who didn't have an option had an option.
Yeah.
But it's more the internet. Like it's, I live rurally. And so our bandwidth is being pushed. And like, we really have to be careful that only one person can be on a video call with a teacher or a student, or I work from home full time. And, it's bringing up, there are a lot of places just in the US alone, let alone globally, where people do not have high speed internet. So it is taxing a lot of families.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just families, even in the Bay Area, like I work a lot with, Silicon Valley companies at the moment. And like even their people, because they're usually not working from home, they have amazing internet at the company. And now they're at home either with the family or with 3 other roommates. They have like bandwidth issues. Yeah.
Interesting. Because you think of an urban area, especially, the Bay Area, as like everyone's high speed, but interesting that's not the case.
It depends on what you get, right? I'm actually super excited and lucky because we moved into this new house 4 weeks ago, just before everything happened on March 5th. We signed our lease and or our lease, it's not even lease, it's a contract, I guess.
Mortgage.
Right? Mortgage, yeah.
Yeah. Homeowner.
And my fiance Scott, he set up the internet, and he's like, what should I get? And he's like always really cool about these things. He's like, let's just get the best internet. And we didn't know at the time.
Right.
And we have like the highest bandwidth that that Spectrum has in this area, because I also live kind of rurally, right? And I'm so happy we did it.
Yeah.
I did not expect to be so much working on video conferences and having to have really good bandwidth to make sure that I can give my virtual trainings and things like that. So yeah. Bandwidth.
These things, it's not important until you need it.
Yeah, and you're not aware of the little things in life until everything changes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can talk to my colleagues on a daily basis just passing by, or I get free lunch, or all these different things that people are used to when they're going to the office.
Yeah. Or the things that are not as important, even though we thought they were important. Those are coming into focus for me right now, because I think like a lot of people, when this pandemic hit, I immediately went to finances of like, let's look at our finances. Is there anything we can cut? Just because I'm just hyper responsible type A type of person. And I've been in debt as in part of my adult life. And I'm like, I'm never again. Right. So then we assessed like, wow, we're barely spending anything related to driving. Right. So like suddenly that went away. So it was just interesting to see how the finance fluctuated too. And then also like, what could we cut that actually isn't that important right now that we thought? Yeah. So
any examples for that? I love that topic actually. Did you you're like, that makes it important right now?
We have this tiny, well, not tiny, it's small home, like 900 square feet. And we have a house alarm. It's just peace of mind for me. And when my kids are, my youngest is still 2, so he's still young. And we have a door upstairs out to a balcony. And so partially it's to know like if he's opening that door or not. So there's like a safety component. But there's also, when you live so far away from first responders, it's a really quick way to call emergency services for kids. And these things that I thought were important when we're like, actually, we haven't even turned this on in like 6 months. And both of our children know how to call 911 from our cell phones. So that was one thing. And then, we try to have a really low carbon footprint, far from perfect. But every time we learn something, we try to change our behaviors to improve. And we've committed that our next car is going to be electric. But neither of us are driving either vehicle. One's a hybrid, one's in like an old truck. But we're like, gosh, what if this goes on longer? I guess electric car is less important if both vehicles are just sitting there.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 things that come to mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. Yeah. I definitely feel like I don't know if we're spending less. I don't know. I feel like we've made so big supermarket hauls that I've never ever have in my life before.
I know. He tells me, he's like, it was $700. I was like, what?
I know. I'm like, I never had so much food ever in my life at home. And it's really, I actually love it. And again, my fiance is like, yeah, we should always have it. We always should have so much food at home. It's really nice. And now we're eating out less because of that. We usually always go out at least once or twice a week because we're both working from home a lot, so it's nice to go actually outside and do something. So I miss that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
But we're spending, I guess, less money in the grand scheme of things on food and eating out.
Yeah. Someone I work with had the same observation of like, I didn't realize how much I spent on like taking my family to movies and restaurants. And the thing with restaurants, I mean, some of them need our business for takeout. Otherwise, they're not going to be in business. So that's something we're trying. We don't eat out that much.
Okay.
But we're trying to do takeout.
Okay.
Once a week or once every 2 weeks, just to keep some of these places in business. So kind of the reverse.
Interesting. No, we do like takeout too. So we do have we usually do that once or twice a week. Yeah. But there's only 2 takeouts in Tahoe: Thai food and pizza. So
it's interesting. Ours is Himalayan and pizza. What's up with these mountain communities? We like need our rich curries and then just good old pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Just carb loads.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really funny. I was really curious to talk with you today, Kate, because you are already working for a distributed company. So for those of you, for the listeners that have been listening to our first podcast, we were talking about, how distributed companies work and function, and what the benefits are, and maybe the side effects. And when all of this hit, I was thinking of you, and I was thinking, I wonder how Kate is doing, and I wonder how her company is doing and how they're shifting, or if there's actually anything that you have to
Mm.
shift in this period.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're distributed first. And I
Mhm.
don't know the percentage. So I work for Elastic. I want to say at least 75% of folks were working from home anyway before this pandemic hit.
Mhm.
Some people preferred to work from a
Mhm.
co-working space, maybe one of our offices. So there has been a shift for a portion of our teammates,
Okay.
but the company functions as if we're all separate because traditionally we usually are.
Yeah.
And so how we operate day to day has not changed at all, with the exception of understanding, patience, empathy for the adjustments individuals have had to make,
Mhm.
um, has just risen to absolutely our top priority, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I'm pretty lucky. We're a pretty empathetic, kind company. And I mean, that's just been heightened, right? But everyone's in such a unique situation. It's not just those of us with kids who are now figuring out what is this new schedule and how does that affect my overlap with teammates.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's folks who live alone who realize they're even more isolated now,
Mhm.
and mental health comes up. So it's just really, well, and then folks who've experienced a loss or who have gotten sick. I mean,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's across the board, but we're overall just trying to be super understanding, help each other out first and foremost. But then the tactical, like how we work together, has not changed one bit.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So the well-being has actually become number one priority, and then everything else is business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, I think within every team it's different. So I work within HR and recruiting, and there's definitely been multiple conversations of reprioritization, or at
Mhm.
least looking at our priorities and making sure they're still realistic, or adjusting timeframes. But
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, and
But
for
more
some
so
people,
because
they've gotten more time.
home.
So
Yeah.
what was that?
I guess more so because you have your family home now, and you can get maybe less done as well in the time that you have during the day.
For me, that's the case. With two working adults, that's been the challenge, and frankly, just having young kids. It's the 2-year-old who you can't set him by himself. My 8-year-old is pretty independent with school, but he still needs help, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's just every person needs to figure out their circumstance. But for me, Tim and I have alternated days where we're running point as like teacher slash parent.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then a lot of the work that I would traditionally be doing in the mornings on my teacher parent day is now shifted to like afternoon, evening. So
Uh-huh.
it's very much past the baton in our house, but it's working well. And like
Yeah.
I said, thank gosh, I'm just thankful we get along so well, because I
Yeah.
could see how people are butting heads.
Yeah, for sure. I had that conversation. Oh, my dad's wife is a lawyer, family law, and so we were joking about how many more divorces she's gonna have in a few months.
It's terrible. I mean, or babies. I
Or
mean,
babies,
9 months,
both.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, 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 for sure. 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, I think divorces, and then, not to be a downer, but I've been thinking a lot about folks with domestic violence, because
Mm.
I was reading some stats the other day and they're just heart wrenching. So, I mean, what people are going through just runs the spectrum, right? Some people are finding joy
Mhm.
and staying present. Some people are experiencing the deepest loss. Some people are scared. I mean, it's just, none of us have gone through this before, and I hope we
Yeah.
never will again. So I think it's just one day at a time, really.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for sure. Tell me more about how you are managing workload and kids and husband all in the same place, especially because you're also living in a tiny home.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are struggling with that at the moment. So maybe if you have some tips, so you talked a little bit about scheduling and stuff.
Yeah, I my heart goes out because a lot of folks are working from home that are not used to it. And you work from home, Julia, right? So you're down with this. I work from home. I love it.
Mhm.
But we have to remember working from home is not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so there are some folks that are just forced into a situation and they have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then there are some folks that maybe haven't had the opportunities you and I have had, who are like, wow, I really love this. So,
Yeah.
I think some of the same thinking applies to both scenarios. Right. And I guess I separate it into just kind of that functional, what is your setup? Right. Do you have the right equipment? Because these companies who don't have home workers, I would hope if they can, they should be looking at their employees' equipment and making sure it's productive, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if they have folks used to printing things out in an office, they can no longer do that. Like, external monitors should be sent to every employee, right? So there's just the functional equipment. I'm in a small house. There's literally, well, I guess there's two doors. One's to the bathroom, and I'm not going to work in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, whoever is like primarily working gets the room with the door, which is our bedroom, and we have this fold down desk in the closet. It's actually pretty sweet. And we shut the door. Mommy is going to work, daddy's going to work, and that's our focus time. So it's just thinking through your setups. Obviously, ergonomics really matter. I don't know if you've done this, but sometimes I'm sitting on a couch or in my bed and I'm like, oh, this is just a bad decision, right? So just functionally get yourself set up to work. And then the second bucket I always think about is, how are you going to structure things, right? I mean, pandemic aside, there are like two extremes that usually come up when people think about working distributed. And one is like, well, I'm going to structure everything like I was at the office. I'm going to shower, I'm going to get dressed, I'm going to put my dog in a crate or whatever their routine was. And then they work 9 to 5 and they keep that schedule. And some folks love that. For me, I'm more on the other end of the spectrum of, what do I value most in my life, like in every day? And for me, it's my health and my family. And then I structure my work around those two things, right? And again, like, that's leveraging working from home, and that makes me a more joyful person, because it's like, sweet, I can get my yoga practice every morning.
Mm-hmm.
In the afternoon, when I'm not as productive anyway, I'm going to like shut down work for an hour and go like for a hike or whatever my sweaty exercise is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm just always there when my kids come home, because you can always jump back on work and finish things. But if you're not prioritizing the things that you actually value, you're not really leveraging the fact that you can be more flexible.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the things that come to mind, if that's helpful.
That's super helpful. I have a few questions. The first question is, I love that you're talking about scheduling, and I love that you're saying now you're actually more flexible, right? You don't actually really have to work from 9 to 5 when you're starting to work from home. And of course, it depends on what the agreement is, of course, with your team as well. So you have to communicate that. But how do you do that? Do you tell me more about, do you have like a fluid schedule, or do you have in the company a calendar that everybody has access to so people can see when you're on and off? Like, how do you communicate that to your team members as well?
It's a great question. So we use Google Calendar. I mean, companies are on Microsoft Outlook too. I think it has the same function of shared calendaring, and your calendar is shared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my calendar is totally open.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically put blocks of when I'm available for meetings.
Okay.
And I vary it. And then I block the rest of my calendar where I might be working, but I want it to be my focus time. Or maybe I want to decide to not work.
Mm-hmm.
I just want that flexibility. So I think the communication of blocks of when you're available to others really helps.
Mm-hmm.
And we work across all time zones. So I make sure that I have some EMEA friendly time zones, APJ friendly time zones. So, you're not just being exclusive. And then, I allow for some spontaneity, which again, I'm type A. So this was hard for me to learn. But, sometimes if you are in a lull, because I'm a focuser, I can bang out a ton of work when I'm focused. But sometimes when your head's getting fuzzy, you do need a power nap, or you do need to walk outside and just take some breaths and get some fresh air and then come back. Or sometimes I do my best thinking when I'm not in front of my computer. So I think having those blocks on your calendar where you're not going to be scheduled, but you still may be working, And then being playful with yourself and understanding like I could crank out for the next 4 hours, or maybe I'm going to do 2 now, take a break and finish, the next hour or 2 later. I think that's been really important for me. And frankly, I think I get more done when I look at every week.
Yeah. And do you schedule reminders for breaks, or how do you put breaks in? Or do you just like feel like, okay, now I need a break and I'll take it? Like, are you still
I don't do reminders. I think if I didn't have a dog, normally no one's home, when I'm working, right? So folks are elsewhere. But I think between a dog and I do try to sometimes, not always, but throw in a load of laundry or, just some of those things so that when my family's home, again, this goes back to my values, that I'm with my family. I'm not, bustling around cleaning.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll use breaks as kind of functional things. My dog is pretty good at being like, hey, throw a stick for me, mom.
Nice.
So I think if I didn't have that, I might need to schedule it because I do have the tendency to focus. But I think it depends on what you have going on in your life.
Mm-hmm. And how often do you work in the evenings?
Depends on what's going on.
Are you strict about it, or is it more fluid as well from week to week?
I used to be more strict. I'm trying to be more fluid with boundaries, though, because I used to work every night, right? After I put the kids to bed, I would just finish work, right? Because I'm just used to having a high workload. And then I learned that that wasn't sustainable. And going to bed, your sleep is not as good if work is the last thing you do. But APJ, I'm on mountain time. So APJ, my evening is their morning. So it works really well. So I usually have one evening that's dedicated to kind of APJ stuff.
Okay.
And then I'm fluid around that, depending on what's going on, because I'm a big team person. And if my team needs me or there's just something I can help with, I do it. But my husband and I have a nice agreement. So it's like we always have family dinner. And then I go back to work. So I don't wait until the kids go to bed so that I can still get kind of my evening routine, not having work in my brain for like that hour or so before bed.
Nice. That's really good.
Yeah, I try to limit that, honestly, because it creeps in a lot.
Yeah, it does. I know, that's why I'm asking it, because I know that a lot of people have troubles with that, because you just set up one meeting and then the next day you have another meeting, and then you like find yourself every night being on late night calls, because especially with PST, it's it's like 8:00 here, it's like 8:00 there, or 8:30 in India. So it's like really tricky to find a good time that works for both without interrupting either's schedules too much.
Yeah. And you probably know this, but some folks where this is new or like working from home is new, I think we also need to just relook at what do we need live meetings for? Live, whether it's video. Because I would have a suspicion that a lot of stuff that is currently in meetings, just due to habits, could probably be asynchronous collaboration, right? Let's work on a doc together, on our respective time zones, and then maybe get together for that last conversation. Or maybe it's a kickoff conversation in the beginning, and then we dive into the meat of the work asynchronously. But I think there is this default to meeting, people are still going on planes for like a 2-hour meeting and then flying home. And I wonder, after this pandemic and this forced isolation, if that's going to happen anymore. I think we'll probably rethink a lot of what we thought had to happen.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that. Well, I'm also thinking it's even just like from a protection virus perspective, do people are people like open to travel so quickly again after
That's
like everything is opening up again too, because now everybody's more aware, and maybe some people are still really scared to hop on a plane because all of the bacteria is like bounced around.
But we're all getting the emails saying how much they're cleaning their planes and hotels.
Well, they have to do that right now, right, to protect their businesses. Yeah,
I know. I'm just laughing because I'm like, are you saying you didn't do this before? But
I know. Yeah.
But I didn't think about that, because people may be a little bit more hesitant. You're right. I mean, this may cause some behavior changes, hopefully for the better. Again, I think about carbon footprint too. And, if we can be smarter with how we work together and also allow for more time in people's lives, like that's a great thing.
Yeah. Do you, that actually, I'm curious about this. Do you think about this a little spiritually? Like, do you think like maybe this had to happen for the world to kind of refresh itself and have a new beginning?
You know, it's interesting. And Julie, I think, you know, we're both pretty deep thinkers. And, you know, I do, and I have, I guess would be the direct answer. And the things that have come to mind for me are, one, there's probably just too many people on this earth, and there will always be population controls. And it's sad to think about it that way. And I know my family's going to be affected. So this isn't me just thinking it's not going to happen to me in my life. It will, you know, and it's just, so yes, I think there will always be something to keep things in check. And then two, you know, I haven't thought too specifically, but the pause, the forced slowing down, the, I mean, you've lived in multiple cultures. I've only lived in the States, but we value being busy. And to me, it's just crap a lot of the time, right? So I think that is forcing some folks to really reflect on how they want to spend their time. And then obviously just from an environment standpoint, I feel like nature has been pushed into the corner of every country. And,
Oh my God.
you know, there was a video of a moose like walking across the parking lot right in the center of my town. I was like, that's awesome, you know, because, you know, it's like, hey, I've got space now. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I even like one of my followers on Instagram sent me a post from India, and he said to me, hey, like people can actually see the Himalaya again because the air quality is so much clearer for like since like 20 years or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And I do believe I love what you're saying about, you know, maybe it is kind of this forced break of, hey, we all have to slow down. But I don't know if you read my newsletter this week, because I did mention that a little bit. But are we really doing it? Like now we are forced to slow down, but we are in such a, or some people are in such a freak out mode that we are not doing that, what we're maybe should be doing and what we should be getting down to. And, you know, I don't want to discredit, like I want to say this as well. It's not that I think that people are in a crisis state and, you know, small businesses are suffering and a lot of the economy is suffering at the moment. But it's really to rethink what is really important and where should we invest our time and resources, and maybe what is initially very painful to let go of, but then the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. I agree. And I did see that thing about the Himalayas. I even wonder, because there's the macro level like that. Like, wow, I can see this beautiful landscape and I haven't seen that before. And all this coal burning that's happening in homes. And wow, is this really what we should be doing? But then on the micro scale too, like I wonder if folks with asthma or, you know, other breathing conditions will reflect and say, wow, I was able to breathe so much easier during this time. And I wonder what I could do in my life to help maintain that, right? I don't know. I don't know about you, but it's been an emotional roller coaster of just thinking about all of the pain going on right now, all the setbacks, specifically for the world's poor. It's going to take them so long to recover from this, to the joys of families spending more time together, of, you know, people calling their loved ones more, you know, just these simple things. It's almost like a ping pong match of from your heart. But yeah, I think back to your comment of, are people slowing down? I think it varies. And frankly, people respond differently to fear.
Yeah.
And it's all okay. You know, I think some people, if they're organizing every closet and cleaning things out, and, you know, it's avoidance for a while, it's giving them a sense of satisfaction. And at some point they'll run out of things to do, and then they'll have to face some things and they'll feel a sense of accomplishment, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
We all just handle it in such different ways.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, that we're all coping in our own ways. We all have our own techniques and things that we are doing. I think, I actually did a podcast on social distancing, loneliness, and what is it? So social distancing, separation, or disconnection, or something like that. I don't know what I called it.
Okay.
I was talking about that as well. Now, the people that are alone, they have time to think about maybe the things that they have shoved away in the closet and didn't want to think about because they've just kept themselves busy. And now all of a sudden they have to stay at home. And maybe on top of that, they are alone, like,
Right.
physically. And so, how can we use that time as well to just deal with some of that as well and be open to it. I think that's really important too.
Well, and resources like you're continuing your work, and this is very stressful for a lot of folks. I'm sure you're helping others, right?
Yeah.
And I hope you know that.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of things that I hope folks are just researching. I mean, I have a yoga training at the end of April that was going to be live, and now it's all virtual. And I'm so thankful for it because I'm like, I'm still going to do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It still helps me become a better person. And what a great time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had to shift my business and my services. I had a really slow kind of end of December, January, February. I was working a lot on my rebranding and on the peak performance method, on a new program. And, I was like excited. I was like, March, finally I can get out again and travel and do trainings at companies and, of course, make money as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, of course, as a small business owner, I have to think about that. And then initially, all the COVID-19 stuff happened right in that week when we moved into the new house. So for a week, I was literally like, I'm not going to think about this. I do not have an answer to what I'm going to do right now. And I'm not going to think about it because it's just going to stress me out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was actually by coincidence. I had somebody on LinkedIn reach out to me. I think I published an article or something on LinkedIn, and he was in Italy, which was obviously one of the biggest affected countries. And he's like, I love what you're doing. Can you do a workshop for my team and help them understand what they can do now working from home and how to navigate ambiguity and change? And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do that. And that's kind of how that whole idea sparked of, I can just do everything virtually. Why not? Right? Because usually the companies and the people that I work with, people are now online anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I set up literally a website landing page in like 2 hours. And I was like, okay, if people are interested, here it is. Let's do it. And I've trained over 500 people in the last 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
From amazing companies. And there's a lot more to come. I've been drinking a lot of peppermint tea and honey because I'm not used to speaking so much anymore. It's been fantastic because I'm helping so many people, and that's exactly what I want to do. And I actually love that you said, now more so than ever, we need to take care of our well-being, and we need to be more conscious about what we're doing to ourselves. I think it's a good time for that. And I don't know if I should say this, but like yesterday we were watching the news in the evening, and they were, they're talking about coronavirus, of course. And all of the people that they showed in hospitals, most of them, I don't know, maybe it was also just a specific hospital, I don't know. But there were a lot of overweight people, a lot of people that are maybe not having the healthiest lifestyle and that are affected. I'm sure that, they are talking a lot about how probably a lot of people have the virus, but they're not feeling any symptoms because their immune system is strong enough. And I hope that this is a wake-up call for people as well, to see that, they need to take better care of their well-being, eat healthier, sleep more, reduce their stress. Like, this basically shows a little bit who has taken care of themselves.
Yeah. And, depending on each person's journey, stress is usually central to that. So, I mean, I stand by the work you're doing is so incredibly helpful when folks are ready to shift it, because sometimes not exercising or eating unhealthily is a stress reaction, not always.
Not always, sometimes.
But yeah, I mean, they're talking a lot about underlying conditions, making things worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a really nice talk. I was really curious to talk with you a little bit about how, Elastic is operating. Are they operating more on a different level, or is it similar? So it is similar or very, very close to before, but of course the people that are now forced to be at home, for them things have shifted. But it was also really interesting to hear some of your best practices working from home, because you have done it for a really long time and you're working full-time really successfully for a tech company. So that was really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And I hope we'll have these conversations in the future as well, and we can share maybe some tools with other people that they might be able to start applying in their lives as well.
Happy to help anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.